Hello everybody, my name is Sniping is Fun, and I welcome you back to my next video here on my YouTube channel. I know it's been a while since I uploaded anything. Life and work and problems and whatnot going on. I've just been kind of dealing with a lot of stuff over the last couple of weeks. I'm sorry about that. But I plan on getting back on doing more videos, hopefully very soon, and I want to start with this because of what tomorrow entails. And you already know if I hopefully change the thumbnail, which I haven't changed thumbnails in forever on my videos, plus the name of the video. You know exactly what I'm going to be talking about here, but it's tomorrow on October 8th. And that's going to be, I want to give my thoughts on this because you guys know on my channel, like, what I like and what I, talk about and whatnot. And when it comes to video games, you all know I'm a big fighting game fan, and that's like one of my favorite genres in gaming alongside RPGs. And even more classic so for me, because since I started gaming back in the day, back in like the mid-ish 90s, fighting games have always been with me. RPGs came a little bit later, besides Pokemon, but RPGs are one of my favorite genres, but fighting games have been with me longer in my tenure as a gamer. And this franchise I'm talking about right now actually has been with me since the very beginning, and that's Mortal Kombat. Tomorrow on October 8th, the Mortal Kombat series officially turns 30 years old, which makes me also feel old myself, but 30 years old, 1992, I would have been 2 years old when when the Mortal Kombat series first started. 2 years old. And this is my current cartridge of the original Super Nintendo, the censored one, Mortal Kombat. And this is where it all started for me. Not this specific copy, because my original Super Nintendo collection, I sold it like a complete idiot back in the day at Blockbuster, and what they didn't take, some guy who, I could give these people, this son and her mother money and stake the rest of his collection for pennies, took away. There was a guy literally watching us when I was trading my Super Nintendo stuff, and whatever they didn't take, he took for something that probably would be much, much cheaper than what they should have been sold for. But yes, this is a copy. Since I've been rebuilding my Super Nintendo collection, this is the current copy I have right now. I also have 2 and 3, not Ultimate 3, but regular Mortal Kombat 3. I didn't want to put those in the video because I want to specifically focus on this, because this is where Mortal Kombat started for me, was this game. Back in the day, I only had in my original collection this game. The Super Nintendo was my system, and this was the only Mortal Kombat game back in the day I owned, was the original. I would rent 2 and 3 here and there. I remember even one weekend, I rented 2 and 3 at the same time, and then just made a big Mortal Kombat weekend, having this game and then playing 2 and 3 a lot. I could definitely remember doing that. But it's turning 30 years old tomorrow. And this series has come a long way. Like I said, when I was growing up, since I've been gaming, fighting games have always been there for me. I'm sure my first fighting game of all time would be Street Fighter 2. That is a certain right there. But Mortal Kombat's been there since day one, just like freaking like Fatal Fury and King of Fighters, and then eventually Tekken and Soul Calibur and every other fighting game franchise from then on, generations beyond. But Mortal Kombat was one of my first fighting games series I ever got into, and I remember playing this with friends. I remember playing this with cousins. I kind of sucked at the damn game, especially because it's so goddamn hard. Like, these games are you have to be freaking cheap in order to beat like Goro and Shang Tsung and all that. But yeah, this right here would be my copy from Play and Trade from a few years ago. But yes, back then it was one of my first fighting games series. And I when I got into gaming, I know this series is now 92. I wasn't playing obviously at 92. I was 2 years old. I didn't get like a Game Boy until about 95, I believe, and probably a Super Nintendo around 96. By the time I got my Super Nintendo, I would say the original trilogy of Mortal Kombat was already out. So I was able to play like all 3 from like the get-go, rather than most old school gamers, older than me at least, that had to play the first one and wait for the second, wait for the third one. I didn't have to start waiting for Mortal Kombat till 4 came out. But I remember playing the original with my cousins and friends, playing fighting games. It was a good old time. Various co-op versus type games back in the day, and when it came to fighting games, if it wasn't Street Fighter 2, it was really this. Because at the time, I know I played other games, like I mentioned like a minute or so ago, mentioning Fatal Fury, mentioning King of Fighters and Tekken and whatnot. But early on, the only fighting games I actually owned were this, Street Fighter 2, and TMNT Tournament Fighters, which was also a really awesome game. But my memories of Mortal Kombat over the years, it's not, I would have to say, it's not my favorite fighting game series, but I have so many memories of playing Mortal Kombat over the years. Playing the original Trilogy, I eventually got like the Trilogy game on the PlayStation 1, the one that came and was like all three of the original games mixed together. I remember playing that. I remember getting the cheat code so you can do the 1 button or 2 button like fatalities. I had neighbors coming over, cousins. We would play and just fatality each other all the time. Mortal Kombat 4 came out. That was pretty good. And then the PS2, GameCube, Xbox era came out with Deception and Deadly Alliance Deception and Armageddon. Deadly Alliance was okay. It wasn't like the greatest game, but it was enjoyable. I liked it. Deception was pretty damn good. Armageddon, its charm is in the roster and having like all the characters come together as this big conglomerate blow off to the entire series before they reset the timeline and continue out at 9. Those games I remember distinctly playing with like some friends here and there, neighbors, cousins and whatnot. I remember especially renting the Wii version of Armageddon and taking it to a friend's house. We'd create constant characters in that game, all bunch of characters fight each other, and it was awesome. And this was back in, that game came out late high school. Okay, so the first game, I think it came out originally in 2006, but then the Wii version was like 2007, 2008. I remember originally playing on PS2, but whatever. But yeah, and I loved the series. And I remember playing like the Game Boy Advance version when they did Mortal Kombat Advance. That was a pain in my ass. That was hard. And then there was the DC game, which I don't have too many memories of the DC game. My cousin had it. I eventually got it, but I remember only playing it so much back in the day, and didn't really play a whole lot of it. Mortal Kombat 9 and then X, and they rebooted the timeline in 11. All those games are good in their own rights. Pluses and minuses, but it's an overall good series. And since they've rebooted the timeline, it's been pretty overall good. And then, since I'm pretty much required to mention that in terms of this concept, the spin-offs they've done, Shaolin Monks was amazing, especially in co-op. I remember playing through a good chunk of that with my one friend that used to live by me at the time. That was so much fun. I wish they would do some more of that. I wish they would remaster Shaolin Monks. There's that Sub-Zero Mythology Sub-Zero. I only remember renting that once, and like a lot of people online, that game is very but it's an interesting concept. It's better than that Jack Spec Ops, Special Ops Forces type game. That one, besides giving us Tremor, that game sucked. But overall, my memories of Mortal Kombat, having it turn 30 years old, is crazy. The ups and downs this franchise has had for 30 years and going on plus, because they're going to get some new games eventually and whatnot. The series is not going to die. It's crazy, the ups and downs this franchise has had. Is it my favorite fighting game franchise of all time? No. Is it one of my favorite fighting game franchises of all time? I'm going to say yes. Some cool characters. I like the cast of characters. I can actually play some characters decently well over the series. So, yeah. Thank you. Well, I'm going to have to say Midway, because that was the original team, but let's say Ed Boon, John Tobias, everyone that's made Mortal Kombat anything since 1992, thank you all for making this series. Thank you for 30 years, and hopefully a lot more going forward. So, yeah, that's my thoughts, and I'll see y'all later in the next video, everyone. Bye. Sniping's fun. Signing out.